Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Experience Beyond podcast. In today's episode, we are unpacking how B2B tech companies can unlock scalable growth, not just by adding new tools or automating touch points, but by crafting AI driven digital experiences that truly connect with customers across every segment. I am Anand Nigam, your host, co founder, and director of XEBO.ai. To dive into this topic, I am thrilled to be joined by Andrew Carothers, a visionary CX leader, strategist, and award winning innovator with over 17 years of experience at Cisco, where he helped create the customer experience organization. Andrew has been instrumental in designing AI powered digital first customer journeys that not only reduce churn and boost upsell, but also thrive loyalty at scale. He currently serves on the board of strategic AI program at the University of San Francisco and is a 12-time International CX Award winner, recognized for his impact on AI implementation, CX strategy, and transformation. He is also an active voice in communities like CX Exchange, CX on the Rocks, and DCS Connect, where he shares insights with sales leaders and digital CS professionals worldwide. Today, Andrew and I will explore one, what it really takes to scale B2B customer experience using AI, two, how to lead digital transformation without losing the human element, and three, how brands can create meaningful impact across every stage of customer lifecycle. Whether you are a CX leader, a SaaS operator, or someone shaping the future of post-sales experience, this episode is packed with actionable ideas and inspiration. So, Andrew, welcome to the Experience Beyond podcast.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be here. This is great. We had the opportunity to meet a while ago, so I'm thrilled to be on your podcast now.
And Andrew, what made you get into the CX profession? So I want to start off with understanding what drove you into this. What was that light which took you into this tunnel that we all talk about?
Well, I started my career in marketing, in public relations, and then marketing more broadly. I started working at Cisco in a marketing role. This was before we had a customer experience organization. The company sold hardware at the time, only hardware, primarily. And got paid up front. So there was no need for a customer success capability. But once the company decided to switch focus and to lean into more recurring revenue and focus more on software, then it realized it needed a customer success capability. So there's a little bit of luck involved from my perspective. I was lucky to be in the marketing team within the sales organization. So it was field marketing for the services organization. And that was the one bit of recurring revenue the company had was the service contracts. So, these were typically break fix type of contracts for hardware. And I kind of lucked out in that the people who were driving the force toward creating the customer success capability were the leaders of the organization I was in. So they tapped me and 49 other people, there were 50 of us. They tapped us on the shoulder and said, all right, you need to create this capability for a 70,000 employee company that has never been involved or cared about the discipline of experience at all. It's never needed to. So a little bit of it was luck, but once I got involved in it, and I realized that it included the customer experience as a profession, includes everything I like about marketing, the messaging, the focus on the customer, the sort of thinking about what does the customer need next, and then adds a whole layer of problem solving of how can we anticipate what the customer is going to need and how do we solve those problems before they end up hitting into those problems, or how do we solve problems that they already have. And it becomes so much more complex because it's focused in on the customer's needs, but then also the reality of the company so that one can operationalize the delivery of the experience that the customers want. So I found that customer experience added three or four more dimensions to the work than marketing, which already was multidimensional. So that's how I kind of fell into it, but then decided I really wanted to stay in it.
which is an awesome space actually, Andrew, and especially given that you were also not just being in a CX space from just human side perspective, because these days technology is becoming a big enabler, and you got into this space while there was technology which was leading the entire change or innovation at Cisco. So that's an amazing space or amazing company to be in while the entire transformation was taking place.
Yeah, it was when I look back, it was great to have a front row seat to the creation of the customer experience function at a Fortune 100 company and really do it at the same time as the creation and early maturation of the discipline worldwide. Because again, this is 17 years ago. So I think the Customer Experience Professional Association had only been around for a year or two at that point. There were a few companies that were leaders in customer experience. So you think of Adobe or Salesforce. But not in the B2B world, there were not a lot of companies. We know because we tried to go talk to them to find, to learn best practices and try to think about different ways about how should we set up the capability. And there just weren't that many people to talk to at the time. So to be involved in the creation of the capability at Cisco, an organization that even though we were just, as I said, 50 people out of 60 or 70,000 employees, but we had some resources, and as we started to get some traction and prove our value, we were able to get more resources. And so, it's one of the wonderful things about working for a large company is if you can garner resources, if you can build a coalition of willing stakeholders, then you can really grow, right? There are resources to be able to do things. So it was wonderful to participate that in the growth of the profession and the growth of the profession inside Cisco to where now the customer experience function is quite large and spans much of the company in terms of the percentage of renewals dollars that go through our digital customer experience organization, the different adoption journeys that we run. So it's been great working at a large company like Cisco because of the resources.
Awesome. And you played a key role in building and scaling Cisco's CX organization globally. You, what were some of
Yes.
the most valuable lessons that you learned while transforming the entire traditional CX into Cisco driven, digital driven? What major challenges did you face along the way?
Well, we don't have enough time to talk about all the challenges I face, but I'll focus on the major ones. So there are a couple things. What we realized, and it didn't take too long to realize this, but one thing is that we have to, as customer experience professionals, we have to focus in on both the customers and the company. And what I mean by that is, I think there's a lot of when people think of customer experience, and this is the way I thought of it originally, which was more from the marketing lens, was focusing in on the customer. Need to understand the customer, need to design journeys that suit the customer's needs. All of that is absolutely correct. In order to deliver those journeys so that customers get the value they're looking for, both from what they've purchased overall, the software that they've purchased overall, or hardware, whatever it might be, but also from each individual touch point or transaction. If they're looking for a piece of information to help them get onboarded, or they need to contact customer support, or they want to connect with a peer in the community, whatever it might be, right? Just sort of more transactional. Their experience needs to be simple, and they need to easily and quickly get to the value they're looking for. So in order to deliver that experience as designed, one needs to look at the company to understand what are our processes, our people, our data, our platforms that data is going to run through. What are the business rules that are in place or maybe should be in place? Which ones of those are there because they've sort of always been there, but now they get in the way? And who do we need to talk to change those? So the whole operationalizing of the delivery of the experience is incredibly complex because now you're dealing with silos, egos, hidden pockets of data. It took us 3 years when we started, 3 full years to identify and get access to all the different customer related data sources inside Cisco. 3 years. That was not something that we expected to take 3 years. But because there are also these different, these different pockets and these different silos, finding out what those are, making connections, building relationships internally for that operational side, that was a major challenge because everywhere we turned, there'd be a different challenge along the way. There'd be a different team, there'd be more data, there'd be some people who were happy to give us access to the data, others who protected it like it was their own personal property. So that was a major challenge, is understanding the that we needed to focus in on both the customer as well as the company. And then I'll say that a second major challenge was convincing people internally of the value of focusing in on the customer. And I know that that sounds silly, like why would anybody argue against that? And it wasn't that people argued against it. I mean, it's sort of like motherhood and apple pie. Nobody says it's a bad thing. But it ultimately requires behavior change on their part. So if we went to the sales organization, we wanted to implement a handoff of data from sales over to customer experience so that the CX people knew what they were talking about when they started having adoption related conversations with our customers. And the problem was that without that, the customers were having a bad experience. They'd had all these conversations during the sales cycle with the sellers. Why are you buying this? What problem are you trying to solve? How are you going to use it? But if that information wasn't handed off to the Cisco CX team, then the customer had to start all over again. This is why I bought it. Here's what I'm running. And that's frustrating for them. But at the same time, the sellers and their leaders didn't want the sellers focusing in on administrative work. They wanted them selling to the next customer. So we had to implement a behavior change, and that's hard to do. So we had to focus in on figuring out on convincing many different stakeholders across the company, not only in sales, but IT, marketing, anybody who had the data that we needed, or anybody who already had, that were already managing customer touch points, like marketing owned the website. So we needed to collaborate with them, but we also then needed to convince them what was in it for them if the customer adopted the solutions that they purchased, and then leading to more renewals, and then leading to more upsells and cross sells. So the work that I think it's easy to underestimate, the work that's required cross organizationally to collaborate and build a coalition of the committed to start driving changes. It's not just building the tech stack, it's implementing change across the company. So that was something that we sort of knew intellectually was out there, but to actually deal with those challenges was more significant than we'd expected. And I think it is for most people.
I'll pick up one challenge which typically we see in B2B space, because in B2B, your relationship is one, of course, with the company, with the entity that is your customer. But at the end of the day, you are also servicing an individual who is working at that company. So how do you cater to one, the corporate or the company requirement as a client versus that individual? And typically, in B2B, individuals can keep changing. Today you have got a person, but tomorrow you have got a B person. So how do you manage that challenge of meeting the company in a B2B environment and the individual who is today one and tomorrow it'll be someone else?
Yeah, that's such a great question, and it's such a challenge. You're right to identify that. I'll add one other layer of complexity for Cisco is that Cisco is a partner-driven company. Most of our sales go through partners. Even if there's a Cisco seller involved in the sale, maybe to our larger customers, the partner's still involved in most cases. And then for most of our sales, it's either partner led or partner only. So that additional complication for us is that oftentimes when we're going to the customer, the end user, not only do we have to figure out who is that person and is that the same person who was there yesterday in this role, but also we have to go through and with our partners in order to talk to the end person because the end user has purchased from the partner rather than us. So they have a relationship with the partner, not so much from us, which means in many cases, we don't even know the name or any contact information for the end user. Cisco will usually have, maybe we have the name of the purchasing agent who signed the contract, but that's not the end user. So our approach when we go direct to customers, but then also if we're going through partners and with partners, we built a program and a separate platform to share data with our partners and then scaled that globally to from I think we started with about 8 partners and then built it out into a program with 75, and that was all in the US. And then we expanded to now there are over 7,000, 7,500 globally. And the partners provide us with information about who is the person that we need to reach for the collaboration software or the networking software or the security software. And contact information. And we're providing the partner with information around who's got upcoming renewals or where are these customers in their renewal, in their adoption journey. So that we can send out the right information at the right time. But it comes down to having consistent communication with that person, meaning, so our partners helped us get the name of when we got started. But our communication with our customers is an ongoing communication. So it's once they purchase, they're not getting, maybe 3 emails, welcome email and a week later, hey, hope it's going well. And 3 weeks later, I don't know, here's some tips and tricks. And then a year later, hey, time to renew. Rather, a lot of things can happen. A lot of things can go wrong during that year-long cycle that I just described. We're consistently communicating with our customers, with our end users on adoption, on tips and tricks, on best practices. We're driving them to additional content. We're getting telemetry from the product so that we know what information they need. And we're sharing that with partners and co-communicating with our partners in Cisco out to the customer. And then we've added in to the communications that we send out as part of the general communications and sometimes a specific communication saying, are you the right person to receive this information? So that we give the recipient the opportunity to say, oh no, I'm no longer that person. And we ask them if they're not the right person to identify and provide us contact information for the other person, the new person or a new set of people, whatever it might be. And we don't immediately add those other people to our connection, to our list. We then reach out to them directly and say, Anand suggested that you are actually the correct person to be receiving these communications. Let us know if that is in fact correct. So we're not spamming people. They are opting in to receive those communications. So we have that ongoing validation process, which helps us make sure that we are talking to the right person for individual products. And our customers tend to purchase multiple products from us. So it's important that we understand who the right person is for the right product so that we're not sending a security customer information about software-defined networking that they don't care about. So that's how we do it. Regular communication, not only when we want something like renewal, and giving them the opportunity to self-identify and say, I'm no longer the correct person. We also give them the opportunity to self-correct information if we have it incorrectly, right? They can click on a button in community or email or on the website, multiple channels. They can click on a button and then go correct any information we have about them that's incorrect.
Oh, this is awesome. And especially for a B2B kind of environment where you are dealing with a corporate and then the decision maker is different, the user is completely different who would end up using your product versus a person who is actually doing the entire purchase or procurement is completely different. You might end up having a contact details of the procurement or the purchasing team, but at the end of the day, the user is someone else. So it's a great example that you shared on how to operate in a B2B kind of environment and deliver great customer experience. So key is that you need to get right information, give them that ability to provide the right information, choose right information, and so on. So that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. I also see that one of the award that you won was for AI implementation. So AI and predictive insights was central to your approach to personalizing this entire customer journey. In your experience, what separates meaningful AI driven CX from just automation for the sake of it?
Right, right. And I think that's an important distinction because I think, especially today with AI, a lot of people are just rushing to do something with AI. And while there's a certain value in starting to swim in the AI pool if you're not already there, just to get a little more familiar with it, what separates effective use of AI is intention, is understanding with strong purpose and intent what you want to apply the tool to. And today's is AI, tomorrow it could be something else, yesterday was something different. The tool, for the tool's sake, is not going to lead to sustainable value for you or for your customers. So it's having a real intention, a real purpose for understanding what you want the tool to use. And I think a good way of looking at that and answering that question is, where are there friction points in our customers' experience with us? Where is it a struggle for them to onboard or to purchase or to renew, to get the information they're looking for, whatever it might be, and then try to figure out, is there a way for AI to solve that problem for them? And similarly, turn the lens back on yourself and say, where do we struggle with repetitive tasks that maybe we could do differently using AI? Or where do we struggle to provide customers with the information that they're looking for? I'll give you one great example of that is, it's expensive to do lots of translations of material. So we create our content at Cisco, our enablement content to help customers onboard and get maximum value out of what they're looking for. And we would traditionally, for decades, translate that into 16 different languages for use for customers across the globe. So that sounds great, but there are a lot more than 16 languages. And one of the languages that we did not translate into is Arabic. And I think that goes back decades ago, probably when we didn't have many customers who spoke Arabic. And so there wasn't a big need for it. At least it wasn't prioritized as much as Spanish and Portuguese and languages spoken by more of our customers. That's no longer the case. There's a real need for increasing the prioritization of translating into Arabic. And what we identified was that we know that customers renew, or let me put it this way, the number one reason why customers don't renew a contract with us is because they don't know they have a renewal. They just don't know. And so we also have a business rule in place that if we can't send renewal notifications in the customer's language, we don't send it at all. So we identified there are $1 million worth of renewals to Arabic speaking customers, and they were not receiving any notification. The number one reason why they won't renew. So we then use AI to do those translations in a much more cost-effective way. So now we're translating into 50 or more languages, not 16. So customers are getting the information they need, and they're getting it in the language that they speak, their native language, in a way that we couldn't do that before. So highly personalized, just from the language standpoint, right? That says, I value you to the point where I'm going to translate all of my content for you into your language. So that's one way we use AI to personalize. Another thing is thinking about, so focus the lens on your customer's experience, focus it on friction points in your operationalization of delivering that experience. And then a third way to think about AI and how to apply it is, if I had X data I could do Y with it. So this is something I learned from TSA, the Technology Services Industry Association. If I want to deliver this type of result, what data do I need in order to do that? And then so put that in practice with if our data, if we use AI to analyze large swaths of data, understanding from our customers, who they are and what they're saying. What are they saying with when they're contacting customer support or when they're engaging in chatbots? What are they saying when they are in the customer communities? We have a huge number of customers who engage in our peer communities, asking questions, looking for tips and tricks, etc. So all of these signals that customers are talking us to, now we can analyze that using AI and compare that to what they're doing. What are they buying or not buying, renewing or not renewing? Where are they getting stuck in their adoption phase? And then looking at patterns and understanding, oh, this particular element seems to be where they get stuck, right? This step in the adoption process. And being able to understand that over the whole customer base, but then also apply it to individual customers, so that we can start to understand when a customer is heading for a problem, right? When they're in the car driving toward the cliff and they don't know there's a cliff there. But now we can see that cliff because of being able to do the analysis using AI. And then we can steer them away from the cliff before they even know they're heading to it. Much better experience for the customer than going over the cliff and having to call customer support. And much better for us. They're not calling customer support. They're solving the problem themselves, or we're solving it for them. AI allows us to do that. But what I just laid out is a somewhat complicated process to understand all of that. So if you're not going into the use of AI with intention to solve a problem like I just described, it's too complex of a process to be able to solve just by chance. So again, what separates effective use of AI to improve the customer's experience, to improve operational efficiency for the company, is having a knowing what your end goal is when you start looking at AI. And that's how you can identify, well, what's the right tool for us to be using, the correct AI tool for us to be using. You have to understand the problem you're trying to solve and the complexities of the problem before you can solve it effectively and efficiently using AI.
Absolutely. Very well laid out and articulated on effective use of AI. In fact, you gave an example which actually touches upon the next question which I had was, you have been talking about using a very global, diverse network of partners when you are working with multiple clients across the globe. So over 7,000 global partners you have been dealing with. And you actually mentioned one of the complexity which is involved when you are working with such a global team, languages. You talked about multiple languages that you need to work in, and Arabic being one of the language which you identified as a challenge and used AI to address that challenge of Arabic language where you saw renewals not taking place. Now, when you are working in this kind of global environment with so much diversity, what role, in your opinion, did cultural and regional personalization play at this scale? And how does CX leaders they navigate global local companies other than the example that you gave on language as a how about any other examples that you have got?
Yeah, good. The regional and cultural differences, I think, are huge to take into account when you're trying to connect with people. Because ultimately, even though we're talking about, you and I have been talking about automation and using AI, we're doing so in order to connect with people. So we need to understand not only what language they engage in, but also their cultures, to the point at least as it relates to business, which could be things like what holidays they take. You don't want to try to reach out to people and communicate with them if they're on holiday. What currencies they use. We talked about the importance of languages, of course.
Basically.
So it's important to have some understanding of those sort of key elements that affect their work in a business sense. There are also different business practices that oftentimes it's important to be aware of, and this is looking at maybe your own company. So, for example, at Cisco, Across the Americas and Europe, we have what's called a two-tier partner approach, meaning we sell to some customers direct, the largest customers, and then we sell to and we engage with a small group of partners that are some of the larger ones in the world, the CDWs, Presidios, Oranges, etc. Most of the partners that we deal with are much smaller partners. So we actually work with distributors who then work with their set of partners. So that's a two-tier model, us to distributor, distributor to smaller partner. But in Asia, oftentimes we even have a third tier. So there's a third tier model, which means all sorts of complications when it comes to quality of data as it works its way through the system and how do we actually reach the end user customer. So it's important from just one example of a business process that is different in different parts of the world. So it's important when designing the experience that's going to be provided to the end user to figure out, one, how are you going to get to the end user? Will it be direct from you, or will it be through a partner or through a series of partners? And then understanding how you can maintain the data fidelity through that process. I think it's very valuable to have people from um, be there to provide consultation as you're trying to figure this out. Now, that could be somebody from your own team. We grew our team to a point where we had people embedded in the organizations around the globe. So they were our folks reporting into us, and they could provide feedback to us as we were trying to create maybe a new journey or whatever it might be. But additionally, I mean, it doesn't even have to be that. It could be salespeople or marketing people or anybody in your organization who lives and works in those parts of the world that you now want to reach to, or maybe even worst case, they used to, and they now can help out. They can help out with translation if you're not using AI, but they can help you understand the cultural practices so that as you're developing communications, like I would have folks read the communications that we were developing so that they could provide feedback on the cultural relevance of that. Are we speaking in a way that resonates with people, or is it too casual of a tone, or maybe too formal of a tone? So I think it's important to seek input from people in those regions, whether they directly report into your team or not, who can help provide you. It's almost like your global cabinet of people that you can reach out to help you understand some of the cultural and regional subtleties. It's critical to get that right. Otherwise, you risk coming across as the company from far away who doesn't really understand you. And boy, if you get to that point with your customers and they think you don't really understand them, then they start to lose connection with you. They start to lose value from engaging with you. And you need to have their trust and their belief that you are trying to make their lives easier.
Awesome. Andrew, it's actually so valuable because many clients who are into this B2B environment, which, like you explained, can be very complex, can be very diverse. So how to create an ecosystem which delivers great CX? It's very useful conversation that you had today. Now, I would like to move on from your B2B experience to the amount of work that you are doing in the CX community and influencing the CS thought and innovation in the market. So you are part of several leadership communities, which includes like DCS Connect and CX on the Rocks. So how do these peer-led communities shape innovation and decision making in CX today?
Well, that's a good question. We usually think about focusing in on the customers, but to think on our own profession is an interesting question. I think it's important to have an opportunity for professionals to connect with other professionals who might have more information to share. Maybe they're specialists in journey mapping or specialists in data and automation or whatever it might be. I sort of have a lot of specialized information around the use of AI in CX or digital customer experience or digital customer success. So the opportunity for me to ask questions of others and for me to provide information and guidance to other people is what these communities bring. And I'd find that the CX community is really filled with wonderful people. I hear this from other people in the profession as well, just sort of like, wow, what a bunch of really nice people willing to share their knowledge. So the communities bring us the opportunity to connect and to share knowledge. Some folks I've met, that's wonderful, up with what people are doing and what's going on in the profession through methods like books, podcasts like yours. I think it's super important. The communities provide an opportunity to have more directed conversations with people, to understand the struggles that people are having, and you're not alone, you're struggling with the same thing, or to have an answer for them and to be able to reach out and help out. So to me, these different communities in the CX world provide a wonderful opportunity for sharing information in very specific ways, with specific questions that people might have, that complements the knowledge that people are getting from books and from podcasts. I also think that it is indicative of a maturing of the profession, that we've now reached a point where there are these communities, and not just one, but multiple communities, that there are enough CX professionals that have the opportunity to share their knowledge, and new people coming into the profession who are asking questions, or they're new to a certain element of CX. Maybe they're getting into digital for the first time. So I think it's a maturation of the profession, which I think is also a good thing.
Oh, awesome. And is there, it'll be great if you can share some examples or next wave of innovation that these CX community leaders are talking about.
So one of the types of questions that I see in the communities is from CX people who want to get more involved with AI. They're ready to, but their companies sometimes aren't quite ready. There's a lot of fear, and I understand it, but around data protection and privacy and intellectual property. So some of us who are more experienced using AI and using it in a corporate setting have been able to provide guidance to people around, here's how you frame around the use of AI, the use of data, which tools are appropriate or not appropriate. So you need to have people from not only legal and also marketing, because you need brand protection in there, but also from IT, who can help review different technologies, whether they be new AI tools that people want to bring into the company for the first time, or new AI features from vendors who are already in the company. Somebody with knowledge needs to look at the use of AI to understand, will our data be shared externally, et cetera. So there's a way for companies to put together these sort of corporate governing boards that allow for the use of AI, but provide guardrails for using it. And I find that being able to share that information in communities with people helps those people then go off and talk to legal or marketing, whoever is afraid, and provide them with a way to lessen their fears, because showing them there's a way that other companies are currently using to engage with the AI while still protecting our customers and our assets. So that's one specific example of people engaging in these CX communities to learn how they can do things. So a second example of how people are using AI or asking questions in the CX communities about the use of AI is about specific use cases, specific applications. So sometimes it's asking about specific tools. What tools are people using for things like note-taking, or for journey mapping, or for various specific applications within their work processes and their workflow, and trying to figure out how they can bring AI into that, and asking the community, hey, what are people using? And I love that because it's tied to a specific intent, like I was talking about before. It's important to understand, what are you trying to solve for? So I love these types of questions, as well as the more general, how do I convince my company that it's safe to use AI? So lots of questions in these communities around the use of AI, which shows a real interest in using AI for real world problems and simplifying workflows.
That's awesome. Thank you, Andrew, for sharing all these insights. Especially, I think both areas. We dwell a lot on the ecosystem that B2B companies operate in, how complex it is, and how we can create a very efficient CX working in that ecosystem. And second, we also discussed a lot about how AI is actually helping and enabling the delivery of CX and helping to innovate how we interact and deliver on different customer journey. So thank you for sharing all those insights. This brings us to our end to our core section, but we have got a very fun section, rapid fire section, which is very light, simple questions, and very entertaining. So hopefully we are ready for that.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's go. Let's go.
Okay, so this is like there's no right or wrong answers. Whatever comes top of your mind, share that. I'm sure it'll be very insightful.
All right.
So if you had to describe great digital CX in just one word, what would it be?
I'm going to say one word. Wow. All right. I'm going to say multi-channel.
Awesome. What's one B2B brand you think is leading the way in customer experience today?
Salesforce.
Good. One skill every future CX leader needs, but most don't focus on enough.
Communication.
Agree to that. Absolutely. One corporate CX buzzword you secretly wish would disappear. I hope it's not AI.
Not AI. Journey mapping.
Journey, journey mapping. I'm surprised. A CX win you are most proud of from your time at Cisco.
Implementing AI.
Okay. So that brings us to the end of the rapid fire section also, Andrew. Thank you so much for your time. What a master class in digital CX and especially with B2B, Andrew. That was awesome. From building CX at Cisco to shaping the future of AI driven customer journeys, your perspective on transforming B2B experience is both visionary and it is very grounded. Some of the things that you spoke about today are lessons for many B2B companies who are struggling in implementing CX at a complex, in a very, very, very complex environment that they operate in. So thank you for sharing that. A huge thank you again, Andrew, for sharing your expertise, energy, and passion that you bring in the CX space, and especially connecting it with AI and digital space that we are operating in. Until next time, I'm Anand Nigam, reminding you to lead with empathy, innovate with purpose, and build experiences that go beyond expectations. See you in next episode.